Here we go. Welcome aboard, everybody. This is Our Android Week with Alan Furstenberg in New York, Bruce Turner in Lynchburg, Virginia, Duke Carrico in Kingsport, Tennessee, Michael Banks in Augusta, Georgia, Nate Swanner in Portland, Oregon. This is Our Android Week. Welcome. We're gonna kind of rush the show because we got to be done before 10 Eastern time because YouTube is doing some maintenance tonight, and we'll be unable to stop the program apparently. So, not that that's ever prevented us from
on our
going
Friday
on.
night show, right?
Absolutely. So, Alan, welcome, and Duke is here, and hopefully we'll get a couple more during the course of the program. We're going to start with kind of an odd device that I saw, and this is called it's the True Grip handheld keyboard. Now, this would not be cool. Your kids would definitely make fun of you for wearing this, but it's a neat device, and the example that they show is like on the side of your waist. Like here's the Nexus, I guess the Nexus 7, right? And the keyboard, it's kind of, there it is on the guy's waist, and then you see, I guess you put the thing on top there, and you've got your keys in your hand.
You actually put it, although you put it on top, the keys are underneath it, so you're not looking at the keys while you type. The key, if you think of kind of how you're holding a cafeteria.
So I'm looking at the top. It has keys, right? I mean, it has letters, and there's some buttons. And then on the bottom are the actual keys. So this is kind of a freakish device. And we've lost Alan. He'll be back. Duke, are you there?
Yeah. Yes, I'm here. I'm here. I'll tell you what, Dan. I think these are. This is such a device that it's hard for me to offer my opinion until I've actually held it in my hand. Just to look at it, I'm not very impressed, but you know, once I use it, I might feel a little differently. It's definitely not your typical QWERTY keyboard for sure.
Now, what I do like is that it's an innovation in the horrific experience that is trying to create a document on an Android or iPhone. So that's cool. Because it's just, I mean, the idea that I would write a book or something on a mobile device is insane.
Yeah, well, let me ask you this. Do you think that this design is more or less useful than a standard Bluetooth QWERTY keyboard against, say, a tablet or a phone?
I think what this is, well, the example they use is for a medical person. So, for example, when they come through and when I got sick recently, a while back, a year ago or so, whatever it was, they came in the room and they actually had a push cart with a computer, and you know, when they want to find out insurance information, that sort of thing, and this would allow them to be much more portable. If they could, I guess you'd have to learn how to type on it just like you do a keyboard, but if you did, then you could just walk into the room and be able to use your mobile device instead of having to bring a whole computer in. So I could see the portability there.
Right.
Because it is a problem. Content creation on a mobile device is problematic at best. Content consumption is fantastic. I love reading a Kindle book on my Nexus 7 tablet, but I certainly wouldn't write one on my Nexus 7 tablet. I'd want a desktop for that. Alan, are you impressed with this at all?
I'm very impressed with this. I think this is a great idea. Once again, I think this demonstrates that you're going to find people who are willing to break with convention and find form factors that are perfectly suited to the way people need to use it. No, not everyone is going to get this the same way. Not everyone's going to get a standard Bluetooth keyboard the same way. Not everyone is going to be comfortable with typing directly on the screen. But there are people who are going to like this and need it and use it, and it's going to be great for them. 10 years ago now, I was using a cording keyboard, which I could hold in one hand. So I was working, typing programs, typing messages, typing emails with a one-handed device. And it took a lot of training to use, but once I learned how to use it, it worked really well for a lot of my purposes. And I think you'll see similar uses for this sort of thing. The people who need it will be thrilled to have it.
And this may, well, I certainly wouldn't be walking around with it on my waist, right? I'm sure Craig Shipp would. He'd add it right to his belt. But I do think that if you were on an airplane, for example, where space is tight, you may not want to take your big laptop or your MacBook Pro, and now that they've got everyone in there like cattle, this might be something cool. So there we go. Okay, next up is, and that is, again, the True Grip as one word. And it's supposed to be about $250 they're shooting for.
Let's stress, Dan, for anybody who might want to Google it, it's True Grip, TREW GRIP.
Excellent. And, of course, we'll have the links underneath in the description. Okay, next up is there's a leak that the Google Plus Android app may soon get Chromecast support. I don't think this is, surprising. I think they're going to try to put as much as they can in Chromecast. What do you think, Alan?
Well, it's not so much putting so much in Chromecast. It's putting something in Google Plus. It's a little bit unexpected. I mean, a lot of people, the neat part of this is it's going to mean using your Google Plus app to let you stream your photos and videos from Google Plus's web server, from Google Plus's server onto your Chromecast. So in true Chromecast fashion, it's using your handheld device as the remote control. The clever bit is that it's going to be using Google Plus as the host program for that remote control. So I think it's neat. It's interesting. I'm curious to see how it actually plays out.
What do you think,
Duke?
Yeah, I don't know. My jury's out. You know, I'm kind of like Alan. I think it's a little unexpected. It could be cool, and
it could be cool. On the other hand, this is the Google Plus Photos team, so it could also be a Charlie Foxtrot.
Yeah, like I say, this is let me see it. Let me see how it works. You know, the honest truth, I'm just going to confess. I bought my wife a Chromecast. I set it up for her. She loves it. She uses it every day. I haven't given it a second thought since I've hooked it up for her. Chromecast to me is interesting. I'm yet to get excited about it.
If you have a TV that's not a smart TV,
even if you do, smart TVs are on the way out.
Really?
I think so. I think they should be. Having crap software sitting in your TV, what the hell's the point?
I have it hooked up to...
Nobody uses their smart TVs. Remotes suck. Nobody uses their smart TVs. They all get separate Rokus to deal with it.
This is...
I'm going to get like 20 pieces of hate mail.
This is what Alan's talking about. Try to compose your Kindle single on that. It's awful to try to find a Netflix movie on this thing. It's ridiculous.
All I've got to say, guys, is my smart TV remote is bigger than yours. This is the Logitech Reviews Google TV remote control.
Really, boasting about the Google TV isn't a great thing to boast about these days.
The best thing about Chromecast is that my remote control is my Note 2 or my Nexus 7 or any other device I want, or my desktop. But there's still some bugs in there, but it's not perfect yet. I think Craig still uses it at doorstop. Okay, so there we go. All right, Alan, I actually didn't read this one. You added this at the last minute. So this story is entitled HTC One X and One X Plus won't get an upgrade past Android 4.2. I shouldn't have even said I hadn't read it, because obviously that's the story.
Yeah, I mean, that's the story. There really isn't a whole lot more to it. I think the notable thing that the article points out is that the One X Plus, did I get the name right even,
Yes.
was released fairly recently, so the fact that it's not getting an upgrade is kind of insulting. It's even more insulting than the fact that the Galaxy Nexus isn't getting an upgrade to KitKat, which some of us are still a little bit pissed about.
Why not?
Why isn't the Galaxy Nexus getting an upgrade?
Is it not capable of running it?
Do you watch this show, Dan?
I don't know, kind of.
Google announced that it's not getting an upgrade.
Right, but what's the reason?
It's the TI processor.
Well, the official reason is that it's older than 18 months old. The reason that everyone knows is that it's got a processor in it, or it's either that doesn't have um, drivers supported anymore, and they don't have the source code for the drivers, so they kind of screwed themselves over.
Just real quick, I saw this article just before you shared it with me, Alan. Thank you, by the way. I posted this in the Tech and Coffee community, and basically got a lot of hate replies. You know, they were pointing out that the One X was almost 2 years old, and HTC didn't need to be supporting it. I'll tell you what, man, I agree with this article wholeheartedly. HTC they are in a death spiral. They just they're losing money now. I would like.
And as the article points out, the One X Plus is not 2 years old.
Exactly. And I really think that HTC is doing their customers a disservice by not standing behind their products better. Yeah, and I'm sorry, Apple does this right. Apple supports devices for probably longer than they should. And I want to see Google and the OEMs get there too.
And you know, it's especially galling considering that 4.4 is supposed to work better on smaller devices.
Yes.
That was a big selling point.
Right. So it's really galling when on one hand Google says something like, yeah, it'll work great on machines with only 512, but the last device that we made that had 512 in it isn't going to get supported. You know, it's nice to say that this is going to work on low-profile machines, but, you know, come on. Actually show that it can. And I'm only hopeful that the CyanogenMod people are going to step up and do the right thing and support their equivalent version on these platforms. And I think they will.
Okay. Speaking of Apple, quick question. Isn't it... I think he said that virtually all Apple devices only have... there are only 2 versions of iOS in use at any given time, or something like that, unless you have a super old one. Is that accurate? Something like that.
It's effectively true. It's not correct. It's not quite true, but it's effectively true.
Okay. I'm not sure what the difference is there, but I'm sure there's a technical difference. Okay. Next up.
Well,
go ahead. Sorry.
Never mind. Go.
iOS. They did. Speaking of iOS, which we rarely do on the program. There was a survey of 200 of the top 200 free and paid iOS and Android apps by a Piper Jaffray analyst named Gene Munster, and he looked at reviews and comments, and he found that there's a virtual tie with Android having a slight edge about whether folks are happy with these apps. I'm not sure what this tells us, because most people are in one ecosystem or the other. And so that doesn't necessarily tell us one app is better, like the iOS or Android version is usually better either way. But it does, you know, I guess, obviously they're pretty popular. They wouldn't be the top apps.
Well, what it says is that you can develop apps for both platforms equally well. That you can develop great apps that people like to use. You know, and it's not that you're going to be developing for one platform and the other one's going to get screwed over. It's that, you know, good developers can develop good apps for both platforms and get good customer ratings on it. What it doesn't say, and this is the argument that people keep making, is that if you do it for both platforms, you're going to get equal profits from both. And that's been the complaint for a while now.
But wouldn't you think that the top 200 apps on each platform would be fairly popular? Thus, they're the top apps?
Well, no, it's not the top 200 apps on each platform. It's the top 200 apps on both platforms. So these are apps that are on both of them.
Okay.
They're not. They're trying to do a direct comparison between the two. So they're saying, you know, if you know, Angry Birds is on both platforms, how well is it on both platforms? Very well. You know, app after app, if they're on both platforms, how does it rate on one versus the other? And it says, in general, the Android apps rate slightly higher than their equivalent iOS apps, but not significantly.
Okay. Duke, anything on that?
Well, just real quick, I just want to comment. What I appreciated about this particular article is, Dan, let's just say, like Angry Birds. Would you know if Angry Birds was better on iOS or not if you're an Android user?
That's the problem. Look at Craig Shipp. He's never used an Android phone. He regularly trashes Android devices, but he has no. He's my friend,
No,
but
But look at but here's the thing. He trashes Android regularly by saying that the apps on it are crap. They're all crap. Everything's crap, 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 crap. This now comes out and says, hey, Android users think they're just as good as Apple users. In fact, Android users think they're better in some cases than the Apple users are. So your argument that they're crap is crap.
just like he trashes. I told him last time we did this. I said it's so much more fun beating up on Craig when he's not here to defend himself. But yeah, that's the problem, is trying to find someone who is in both ecosystems. Like Vic Gandotra, our friend at Google Plus. He regularly, I think he uses an iPhone as his prime phone, and he uses a MacBook Pro.
No. Try that. That's a false argument, and the reason why it's a false argument is that it's trying to compare your experience on one versus the other, which really isn't the least bit relevant. What it's trying to say is, for people who are using Apple apps, they're happy with their apps. And people who are using Android apps are happy with their apps.
I understand that this survey did not address what's better.
Here's the thing. That's it. It's not addressing which is better. It's not even trying to. That's impossible to do. What it's trying to say is, are the people using it happy with what they're using? This is why many devices went down the tubes, is because people weren't happy with what they were using. This is why Windows 8 got trashed. It wasn't getting trashed by by Mac OS users. It wasn't getting trashed by Chrome OS users. It was getting trashed by Windows 8 users.
Wouldn't you love to have, if BlackBerry even has apps for these things, Windows included in this? If they could have found the top 200 that are on all three or all four.
Well, the trouble there is finding 200 apps that run on Windows Phone.
Hey, listen, I will have to say that I think what this article might point to is the fact that apps are very good on both iOS and Android, and probably if one company is going to come out on top of the other company, it's going to be through the services that it offers and not the third-party developer apps necessarily.
Yeah, but to Alan's point, this is asking, are people on both platforms generally happy with their main, top apps? And it suggests that is the case, pretty equal, right? And that the separate question of which is better is hard because, you'd almost have to regularly use both and use the same apps on both, and who the hell is going to do that? But I do think it's fantastic that Apple and Android are at each other's throats all the time, because both of them are always upping their game, and the consumer wins. Okay, next up is Google posts fresh Android distribution stats. Jelly Bean and KitKat usage are on the rise, as would be expected. I see, let me show this here. Looks like Froyo is 1.3% of phones. Gingerbread
it's
still
almost dead. Froyo is thankfully almost gone.
It's still shockingly high. Gingerbread, unbelievable, 21.2. But then don't they still sell phones with Gingerbread? I mean, the super cheap prepaid.
In fact, up until fairly recently, they were selling brand new phones. Like new models were coming out with Gingerbread. And the reason is, up until recently, if you made a phone that only had 512 on it, you didn't want to put a higher operating system on it because it was going to grind to a halt. That's why Android 4.4 came out, is because it said, oh, hey, those of you that were thinking about using this ancient operating system, we've got a new one for you.
So that's the rub. It was more like on lower end devices, maybe in emerging markets, etc.
Exactly.
Then you'll be able to put new Android on there, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the legacy old lower end devices or just legacy devices in general will be updated, as
No,
your
it
Nexus
doesn't.
experience suggests.
Right.
Okay, so gingerbread is still at 21%, 17% for ice cream sandwich, 36% jelly bean, Kit Kat 1.4, or actually, let me correct this. It's 36, 46, 51, 58, 59, almost 60% of devices are running jelly bean. I think that we've seen adoption of jelly bean at a dramatically higher pace than we saw, or faster pace than we saw with honeycomb or ice cream sandwich. Is that because the tablet revolution happened?
Well, honeycomb, its adoption was no surprise. Honeycomb was meant for tablets only, and the fact that it's now fallen to, what is it, 0.1%, means that we're thankfully past that. The fact that ice cream sandwich, and even more significantly that gingerbread, are dropping so quickly is really a testament to the fact that for gingerbread, that these phones have a limited lifetime, and that they're finally dropping, and that manufacturers are finally realizing that. And for ice cream sandwich, realizing that they can and should upgrade. So I think it's wonderful that Jelly Bean is surging ahead.
I don't remember if they addressed this. Is this U.S. or worldwide numbers?
These are the numbers are a little confusing. These are percentages of people who have hit the Google Play Store in a 14-day period.
Okay. All right. So this wouldn't include Amazon. I'm curious what their OS compares to this. If this were in the chart, that'd be an interesting number. How many people are using Kindle Fires and
I don't
know
if Amazon publishes those numbers. I'm curious now if they do.
Do we know? Have we ever seen charts with people who make apps and they're on both stores to give us some idea of how the Amazon App Store is compared to Play? I would guess that. I don't know. I have no idea. That would be an interesting number to look at, just to see. If you want to call it Android, that's another argument. Okay, so while he's...
No, I can't find it quickly.
Yeah, I was going to say, while he's doing that or checking his Facebook messages, I'll move. Okay, so next up is...
once again, however, before we move on, I would point out the final number on this, and that's that adoption of KitKat is at, what, 1.3%?
Yeah, that's low.
That is, no, that's...
But it's only available on... what's it on? I mean, it's on my Nexus 7.
It's on all of the Nexus devices, which once again tells us that Nexus devices aren't selling for stonka.
Well, it's not on your Nexus device.
No, it's not on my... Well, it's not on my Nexus phone anyway.
Is it on your Nexus Q?
I don't know. I haven't turned it on recently.
Really?
No, but I mean, this is what this is telling us is that combined sales of the Nexus 7, the Nexus 10, the Nexus 4, and the Nexus 5 amount to a whopping 1% of the Android market.
No, well, total, but it
Yes.
doesn't tell you that it's a higher percentage if you look at recent new sales. But they're at a disadvantage because the carriers aren't pushing them. There's no incentive for them to push them. I can't even use one on Sprint. That's very frustrating. They have the only good coverage where I live, and so if I wanted to like do a T-Mobile thing or buy something from the Play Store and try to activate it, I'd have to switch carriers,
Right.
and I already have to hang out the freaking window like a contortionist to get half a bar.
But again, my point is, for all that we rave about Nexus devices, for all that the industry goes batshit bananas when Google releases a new Nexus device, actually, isn't the Moto X also upgraded to 4.4 by now?
I think it is. I think it is. Just a second. I'm going to Google it.
Okay, so that tells us even more about just how significant Google's presence in the cell phone market is, and that is almost not at all.
Excellent. We all agree. Okay, next up, I'm rushing because we have a hard break because Google's going to pull the plug, and we probably want to end a few minutes early to avoid. Next up is a Gmail update. Is on the 10th they were referring to it as pushing out, but it's the 13th now, so I'm guessing most people have it, but I'm not sure. But this is it's on your phone. I guess it's in general, but we had talked about this on our other show, Google Plus Week, which airs at Friday, 8:30 p.m. Eastern, 5:30 p.m. Pacific. Friday, 8:30 p.m. Eastern, Google Plus Week. But they're pushing an email. The Gmail has been updated to allow messages. You can opt in or out. I don't know what the default is. I think you get when the app loads, it'll tell you what do you want to do, so it forces the question. But the image, they've got a new way where they're caching all email images on their own servers, so that you can't, because the main reason that folks would be reluctant to display images in an email was because that would be one way, sort of like downloading a program, that would be a way to put malware on your device. And so they have figured out a way to cache the images and probably be quicker that way anyway. And it would prevent malware from unsuspecting folks being installed on your device. Any thoughts on this, guys?
What do you call it?
Your whatchamajigger on your
no further thoughts on this
prepaid phone like Alan has, I think. Any thoughts, or does this matter? Okay. Duke is like, I don't know. Time to play a quick cat break. All right, next up is AT&T says sponsored data does not violate net neutrality. Well,
duh, of course they're going to say this.
Yeah, so what this is about is...
So they're going to lie. Big deal. Big surprise.
Big corporations don't lie. Just kidding. Okay, so anyway, what the deal there is that AT&T announced that they're going to allow sponsored data. So, for example, if Facebook or whatever wanted to pay, if you're on a metered data plan, which I'm not because I'm with Sprint, they have unlimited data, but I think all the other carriers have metered data. And so the deal is that if somebody wanted to, a company wanted to promote their product, they could pay your data for that. So like Facebook, for example, if they did it, then if you're on AT&T and you're using Facebook, that none of that data would count toward your data plan, and Facebook would pick up the bill. So then some other folks have said that this violates the spirit of net neutrality. Certainly doesn't violate the letter, because net neutrality doesn't apply to mobile devices anyway. When they adopted rules for net neutrality, that applies to like your Comcast or your Cox Cable, whatever it is, stream at home, but it doesn't apply to mobile devices. So the AT&T statement was that this is not violating anything. It said it aims at this statement here. AT&T has sponsored data services aimed solely at benefiting our customers. It allows any company who wishes to pay our customers costs for accessing that company's content to do so. This is purely voluntary. It is non-exclusive. It is an offering by that company, not by AT&T. Thoughts?
Horse hockey.
You're censoring yourself, sort of.
I told you last week I don't like it, but you know, AT&T doesn't care what I like. But yeah, I think it's underhanded.
You know what it is? Here's the thing. I like that line. It is completely voluntary. You know what it is? It's called extortion. I mean, the mafia used to go around and say, hey, it's completely voluntary that you pay this money to us. But, you know, we are not responsible. What might happen to your kneecaps if you don't?
The bottom
Horse
line...
hockey on voluntary.
You know what, though? You can make a case. I don't like this either, but you can make a case for this. For example, right now, if you watch a Netflix movie at home, right, on the mobile, you're paying for it. But Netflix is getting ready to roll out 4K, so is Amazon Prime. Now, on most devices now, Amazon Prime Video doesn't work because it's Flash. There are workarounds, but it's not a good interface. So what they're saying is that this allows the consumer to not meet their threshold. It's still getting paid for, but it's getting paid for by the company that's pushing the content out, that's making money from you watching it. So why should AT&T or the consumer pay for that when you're making revenue from it? And it's a new revenue source. The problem is, what if Amazon Prime and Netflix were both, viewable with apps? Then if one did it, the other one has to do it. If one newspaper or TV station does it, then the other one has to do it. Or, they're not going to survive. And then all of a sudden, everyone else is paying. You're still paying the same for your phone bill, right? But now they're getting this extra revenue. Basically, extortion's a strong word, but basically...
But totally accurate.
In our opinion.
It would be a shame to see what happened to those bits of yours.
With the what?
Those bits of yours. Those bits flowing down the pipe. It would be an awful shame to see them dropped on the floor.
All right. Okay, so we all agree that AT&T sucks.
You know what it is? Here's the thing. Do you believe for 1 millisecond that you will actually get any advantage to them extorting this money from Netflix and Google and Amazon Prime?
No, because like I said, you're still going to pay the exact same amount for your thing. AT&T
no, you're not.
Just
They're going to keep jacking up the prices on your.
But you're not going to get a discount. They're not going to lower prices as a result of this.
Yeah, Netflix and Amazon's just going to charge you more. I mean, they've got their bottom line they got to meet too. And if suddenly they got to pay AT&T for me to watch their stuff, prices are just going to go up. I mean, eventually they will. They might not immediately, but.
And it certainly violates the spirit. What I like is the biggest thing for net neutrality is that if you want to create the next Google or the next Netflix or the next whatever, you can do it in your pajamas from home, and you can get hosting and stuff, and you have the exact same access to the consumer that the big players do. If it starts being who pays gets the access, you won't be able to start that. The two kids in the garage won't be able to start the next Google without a bunch of money. And it's like, then you got the haves and the have-nots, and it shuts out the democratization. The democratization of the internet is the biggest, the most important aspect of it. Everyone's equal. I can put up a blog, and if my blog is awesome, then I'll get discovered. I can put my YouTube video up, and I got the exact same potential to make it as iCarly did when she posted her first video. And this changes that. And it gets back to the legacy situation where certain people can afford multi-million-dollar TV stations and I can't, so I can't have a TV station and ABC can. So there. Okay. Next. Mobile apps may not pave the way to... Alan, did your clock break?
I'm writing. No, I'm tracking the time. I'm just writing.
Oh, okay, okay. Mobile apps may not pave the way to developer riches. Sales average less than $1,250 a day. So this is obviously interesting to you, Alan. You can probably speak to this because you are, in fact, a developer. And I don't think that that's bad money. The list of things you wouldn't do for $1,250 a day is probably a short list.
Yeah, it's not. It's not the road to
if you're one guy,
wealth,
right?
But it's probably more than most developers are making elsewhere. I'm
but
sure there would
it's
be a
not
lot
just
of developers that would be happy by that.
What's a developer? I mean, is it you, like I said, in your pajamas in your basement, or is it typically 5 guys, or what is it? When they say developer, it could be all the above, but on average, I mean, obviously, if you had a team of 30 people, or if Angry Birds was making $1,250 a day, that'd be a disaster because their expenses, they got a bunch of developers. But in most cases, do you know?
No, but hang on a second. Let's stop with that one. Yeah, but look at how many sequels they've cranked out of Angry Birds. Look how many other, that's $1,250 from one app. If you keep cranking them out, you're going to keep generating that additional revenue.
And does this include in-app purchases? Is this just the sale of the app, or in-app purchases included in this?
Wasn't clear. Wasn't clear when I read it, and I don't have it up right now, so.
But typically, if you have 30 guys, gals, whatever, and they're making an app, say like a Flipboard, you know, some major app, right? I would think that you'd have funding to be able to afford the 30 guys, and the app would probably not suck and be good and be making good money.
30 people is probably a lot for apps these days. You are probably talking about 5 people at the most. And when you're talking, you know, your first app, you're talking 1 or 2 people. And you grow from there. So yeah, it depends on where we're starting and where you're going from it.
And to use the Angry Birds example, wasn't it like it was 3 guys, right, that started it?
Something like that.
And then, of course,
I think this is right. I think when Facebook bought Instagram, there were 30 employees at Instagram.
of course, that doesn't mean when they started they were that. I mean, they had grown.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying.
the
When they
valuation,
bought 'em,
right.
When Facebook bought them, that's how many was employed there.
Okay.
And remember, for most of these apps these days, the goal isn't to make, you know, a fortune selling the app. It's to make a fortune selling the company to Google, Facebook, or Twitter, or Apple, or, you know, Microsoft, I guess.
In the end, we're all whores, Alan. At auction.
I'm
All
trying
right.
to refute this, and I can't.
Alan's in rare form. No rant tonight. Oh, there
You
was a
want me to
mini
rant?
rant on AT&T. There was a mini rant. Hey,
We've
we got.
20 minutes left. I can rant.
I was going to say we can. We're going to talk. Let's do our apps. I may be the only one who has the recommended app.
Before we get to the apps, let me actually inject something that I forgot to write into the notes. There's been an update to Google Play services within the past week, and this is the thing that introduces a bunch of core services across all of Google's products. The most notable introduction this time seems to be that app developers now have access to Google Drive and Google Drive offline. So you'll be able to, a developer, an app developer, will be able to save something to your Google Drive, and Play Services will automatically sync it to your drive when you next connect again. So you no longer have to manage whether you're network connected, whether it's not connected. A lot of work gets taken off of the developer. So expect to see a lot more integration with Google Drive, which is a great service.
So, okay, in other words, the significance here is that this access, I guess they're just opening an API up for these developers. Is that what's going on? And previously only Google or special partnership developers would have this access?
Correct. I mean, basically what it means is the libraries may all have been there for a while, but now they're pushing it into the central services. So it means that every Android phone that has Google Play services, which is everything that accesses the Google Play Store, now has an easier API to using things like Google Plus and Google Drive and other core Google services.
That's cool because I know, for example, my teleprompter app, it'll use Dropbox to because obviously you don't want to type it. You have to type the script up, right? You don't want to do it on your phone or your little keyboard. But you can email the script to your device that you're using to host the teleprompter screen, right? And just copy and paste the email, the text file in that way. Or you can use Dropbox. So now they might be able to add Drive functionality to a future release, which would be very cool for me because I'm more into Drive than Dropbox. Cool. Excellent. All right, so I guess I'll do my recommended app of the week, unless you have one, Alan.
Nope.
All right. See, I'm the only one playing the game. All right, so my recommended app, and I'm scamming this because this was actually a story. I didn't have an app either, but I just grabbed a story. It said, hey, I'm going to make this my app. So here we go. This is called the Ventev. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but they make a lot of battery-type products for phones. It's called the PowerDash R900. It's kind of a neat little thing. It's a compact car charger with a built-in battery. So this plugs right into your 12-volt power supply in your car, and then it's got a little USB thing so you can plug your cable for your phone there. And then it also has a built-in, it's a 900 milliamp battery, which is not huge, but it's enough to get you through a sticky situation. And it's conveniently stuck in your car, right? And it's about $30 on Amazon. The retail list is more than that. It's $40, but it's about $30 from Amazon, including shipping. It's not an Amazon Prime item, but with the shipping cost, it's $30 basically. So I think it's a neat little device to consider if you're so inclined to, be in situations where you're traveling, what have you, and you might run out of. The only thing is that typically, if you're in your car, you could be charging the vehicle, and this is only practical in your car, right? So, but I guess it's something if you're whatever and you can run to your car and get this. So that's my app for you. I'm recommending you check it out if this appeals to you. I don't have it, so I'm not going to say I recommend it other than, check it out. Buyer beware. So, okay, so that is the main part of our program, and then we want to. I guess we can do a few minutes on this, Alan, because I think you said if we had time, you wanted to do this. Friday night.
It's worth mentioning. This is a story that we're going to be covering in much more detail on our Friday night show, Google Plus Week. That's at 8:30 p.m. Eastern, 5:30 p.m. Pacific. Big news came out today of a purchase that Google made. Google has purchased for $3.2 billion the Nest, which is extremely well known for making really cool thermostats, and they recently released a smoke detector. So now apparently they're going to be owned by Google. There's, I got to tell you, the immediate reaction from just about everybody I've heard was utter dismay about this, that Google's gone in this direction. But and here's the relevancy to this show. Sundar, who is the head of Android and the head of the Chrome section at Google, appears to be the one who will be taking over Nest.
Interesting.
So it's interesting.
In addition to his other duties? Go ahead, Duke.
Well, like I say, I think it's very interesting, and I think it could open up a world of possibilities to Android-driven home automation. I know that Nest got their start from a former iOS employee who basically had this idea for Nest, built it on the i platform. But yeah, I think this is hey, listen, I'm not saying that it was a good deal at $3.2 billion, but I'm pretty excited to see where Google's going to take this because hey, obviously these guys know a little bit about how to do home automation, with these thermostats. What do you think? You disagree, Alan?
It's not that I disagree, because it's clear they have a little bit of insight into home automation. But, Google went down this road once already, and they left. And it's not clear why they left, but it's not, there's lots and lots of home automation knowledge out there. These guys are not the only one. They're not necessarily the ones that did it the best. They're not the ones that did it on the most broad terms. They've done some don't get me wrong, they've done some brilliant things. And in discussing this, I've seen a lot of people are like, why would Google want this information? I'm like, pretty obvious to me, this will work perfectly with Google Now. And it isn't until I explain to them how it works with Google Now, or how it could work with Google Now, that they sort of start to see, hey, wait a minute, there's a lot to this. There's a lot to having your home and your phone know more about you than you do, such that it can help you live your life better. Nest's goal, have a thermostat that knows your heating needs better than you know your heating needs. That's a lot like how Google Now is meant to work.
Mm-hmm.
That knows your work habits better than you know your work habits and can help you out with it. So I think it's obvious why they did it. I'm not sure that these guys are all the best ones to do it, but they're pretty darn good. I think it's a good choice for Google.
Do you think sometime in the near future we'll be sitting in our house saying, okay, Nest, turn the TV down?
Maybe.
I guess there were two things. One, it's a successful company, and so they can make money, and they feel that they're going to make money from it. And two, they can do that sort of integration. I mean, it's kind of a interesting purchase, I guess.
I mean, it's just as interesting as Google trying to build a driverless car.
Boy, if they bought Tesla, that'd be something, wouldn't it?
Well, I don't know. You know, it could be, you know, another bump deal. Let's hope not. But, you know, you buy a bump, and then what do? You kill it, you know?
But aren't these success? I mean, this is a big company, right? I mean, it's 3 point whatever billion. I mean, this is like stuff you can buy in Lowe's and Home Depot, right? This is not some fringe company. This is the real deal. So we'll see. It'll be very interesting. Is Sundar going to do this in a...
Let's
I'm sorry.
hope so, 3.2 billion, you know?
Well, they make 12... They gross about 12 a quarter. I figured I did the math on their fine they got from... Who fined them? Was it France?
The EU.
Huh?
Yes, the EU.
Yeah, I think it was like a few minutes of revenue, like 8 minutes or something. They're gonna have to work. They're gonna have to. Maybe they can, you know, build a clock, build in extra 8 minutes that year. And so anyway, coming up on Google Plus Week Friday, we have a neat Flipboard magazine where I throughout the week. You can always tell if you follow the magazine. You can always tell when Dan's on the can because he's on the Flipboard. But we have a neat Flipboard magazine, and it's some of the stories we'll be covering on Friday. Lots of stories about the... Here's one with a picture of a Captain Picard as a Borg. We should be worried about Google's assimilation and consolidation. They're talking about... I heard on WTOP News, Alan, I saw a story today, or heard a story on the radio about why we should all fear, and you know, they've opened up Gmail to spammers.
Oh, good freaking Lord! You know, I'm sorry. The people who are writing stories, you want this rant? Here's a rant for you.
Yep.
The people who are writing the stories about the Gmail Google Plus integration are freaking morons. They have no clue what they're talking about. They have no clue what this does. They have no freaking clue, and we'll be telling them why on Friday.
And I would say one thing on this before I move to the other thing, and I got to wrap it up in about 4 minutes. But we've had this feature for, I think, years.
No, it's even stupider than that. These writers are even stupider than the fact that we've had this feature forever. They're ignorant, they're stupid, and they're willfully ignorant.
I don't think they're willfully ignorant. I don't think they know
They
that
are
they're stupid.
willfully ignorant. I have proof, and I will show it on Friday.
Okay, so we got our rant in. First Android Week rant of the year, I think. Maybe the second. All right, next, also coming up Friday on Google Plus Week, 8:30 Eastern, 5:30 Pacific on Friday. Google Plus Week, Google's reach, the Nest acquisition. And then here's another article about the thing by somebody whose wife works at Google, and he said that in the article. I'm surprised he wrote this. Google is trying harder than ever to be Facebook, he said, and you know, force feeding and the Gmail integration, all that stuff. Gmail update pushing out the always show images setting. Google X team meets with the FDA over an unnamed medical device, Bloomberg News reports. And then here's another article. I've just loaded up with these. Larry Page's second big mistake as CEO, opening your Gmail box to Google+. And then here's somebody on Cloud9 with the new Google Chromebooks. This is going to be a really interesting topic. A court has ruled that Yelp must ID negative reviewers. No constitutional protection. You have the right to freedom of speech, but this court has said that that doesn't necessarily mean an anonymous speech. So that'll be something that I know Alan will want to talk about. Apple and Samsung have agreed to a mediator in an attempt to end their lawsuit. Multiple lawsuits. And then I think, did we talk about the genetically modified, or I think I added this from your post, Alan. You did a really good post about genetically modified crops, and it was the fact that, like in a lot of debates, that much of the quote-unquote facts aren't facts at all, and so we can discuss that. That'll be really interesting. And then
because unlike tonight's show, when we need to end within 1 hour, we have full 4 hours on Friday night.
Only because that's when Google shuts us off. They're very mean. So So there we go. That's the deal. And also, it's interesting. There's a study on Groupon on what people are typically purging from their inbox. There's some company that there's a company that allows you. It's a neat service that allows you to. It analyzes your Gmail, and you can say like you're getting, you have 500 emails from this outfit, Groupon or whoever, and you can just check it, and it dumps them on the spam folder automatically. So it's like I guess a Gmail filter. And so they released a survey of what people typically have removed and what they don't. And what's interesting is Google Plus, that weekly summary and updates from Google Plus are one of the least removed. So people like those if they're subscribed to it.
And we'll be and we'll be discussing all of this when?
On Friday on Google Plus Week, which is 8:30 p.m. Eastern, 5:30 p.m. Pacific. So now I'm going to put my slide up at the end so that people won't complain that we're chopping the show. And you guys stick around because I know, Duke, you have a question for Alan. I got a question for Alan as well. So anyway, thanks, folks, very much for watching. Our Android Week is every Monday at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, 6 p.m. Pacific Time. And we thank you for watching. And to all of our wonderful viewers, until next time, have a wonderful Android Week.